Okay, today we're going to talk about sailing upwind. Okay? So, first you got to know your points of sail. Okay? Here you can see them. Irons is at the top. If the wind is coming from the top of this board, irons is right into the wind. You can't sail into the wind, which is why it's called irons. Okay? So you don't want to be in there. Instead, you want to be sailing on a close hull, which is the closest you can sail to the wind. It's still going up into the wind, you could say. Okay, next down is a close reach, which is not as commonly used as the close hull, but it's still quite effective. Next is the beam reach, which goes perpendicular to the wind, and then a broad reach, and then a run. So we're not going to really look at the beam reach, the broad reach, and the run today, since they all focus on sailing downwind. We're mostly going to focus on sailing on a close hull and close reach. So the objective of this lesson is to know how to be able to sail upwind on close hulls and close reaches with the ticklers flying flat and straight, the skipper on the windward side, and the sails all the way in for close hulls and slightly out for close reaches. All of these to sail for about 50 meters of an upwind leg. So here's our little boat right here with the arrow, okay? Now typically in a race situation, this would be the leeward mark and this would be the windward mark, okay? The wind would be coming from here, or in any case, when you're sailing, you're trying to get from a leeward point A to a windward point B. So this is your boat. You can't sail directly into the wind because of irons, and you don't want to get stuck in irons because it's really not effective. So instead, you're going to match this up with the close hull, and you'd be able to sail on a close hull. Now obviously you can't sail directly to the mark, but you have to use a series of what are called upwind legs, and you would go, and then you would tack through the wind onto another close hull, sail a little bit upwind, tack, and then you'd reach your point. Now if you wanted to use a close reach, you would use a close reach, and which is slightly less effective, although in some boats like a 420, sometimes you can go a little faster on a close reach, so it can be a little more effective. So you want to try? So try sailing to the windward mark on a close hull. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so now we'll talk a little bit about sail trim, which we'll be using this very crude drawing of a 420. This is the main sheet, the main sail, and this is the jib. I've drawn a little window in the mainsail so you can see what's happening on the other side of the boat. But what you'll do on a close hull is typically you want your sails all the way in. So you would instruct your crew to pull in the jib sheet on the opposite side of the windward side, so the leeward side. And as you can see right through this window, the jib sheet is through a little eye and into a little cleat, and you will instruct your crew to pull with almost all of their might to get the jib as flat as possible, and then cleat it, and then you will use the main sheet and pull in as tight as you can so the main sheet is as flat as possible. And when you tack, you should be heading in this direction because in this case the wind is coming from here. You would keep the main sheet nice and tight as you would tack, except you would instruct your crew to uncleat the leeward jib sheet, and as you're tacking through the wind, pull in the other jib sheet, which would make the jib come across, and then you would again instruct them to pull in as tight as you possibly can. So now we have to talk a little bit about markings of how you are sailing on a close hull and a close reach. And those are called ticklers. They're a super handy tool for sailing upwind, and you definitely need to know how to use them if you are effectively going to sail upwind. So these are your ticklers. You will see a blue one and a red one on a 420. Typically that's their colors. In this case, we are looking at the boat from the starboard side, and in this case the windward side. So you would only see the blue tickler, and the red tickler is on the other side of the sail, but you can typically see through the sail to the other tickler. And the way that ticklers work is that the windward tickler if that begins to flap, it means that you're heading too high into irons and that you need to head a little down. Okay, so this boat's on a perfect close haul right now, which means its ticklers are both flying flat and super well. Okay, if this boat begins to head up, not only will the jib flap, but the tickler will begin to flap a little bit before the jib does. Okay, and this is assuming your jib is all the way in and you're on a close haul. Okay, so if you start to head a little down, the back tickler, which you can see through the sail, will start to flap a little. And assuming your jib is all the way in, means you have to head up back onto a close haul. And you will know when you're on a close haul when both your ticklers are flying and your jib is all the way in. And that is the most effective way of sailing upwind. Now we have to talk a little bit about body position, because that's very important for sailing upwind. So I've drawn some hiking straps in the boat, and typically, say you are a skipper and you will have one other crew in the boat, you, no matter what, will always be on the windward side of the boat. Okay, you know that? In this case, that is the starboard side, and then if you were to tack, you'd be on a port tack and you would switch to the other side of the boat as you tack. Now, depending on the strength of the wind, you can either instruct your crew to sit with you on your side or the other side. And a golden rule of sailing is that a flat boat is a fast boat. So you always want your boat to be as flat as possible. And if your crew is sitting on the same side as you and the boat is leaning windwardly, you definitely don't want that to happen, so you want your crew to go to the other side of the boat. And if you see a very big gust coming and say it's heavy wind sailing, you definitely want your crew on this side of the boat, and you want to instruct them, get your feet in the hiking straps, get ready to hike out. And if it's light wind sailing, your crew most likely will be on the other side of the boat. And if you see a gust coming, you might want to get the crew to hop to the other side, but would probably be more effective for you to just hike out individually to keep the boat flat.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is it better for your crew to be closer to you or further up?
Typically, when you're sailing upwind, you want the crew to be farther up. The farther back you are, the more plow you make in the water. So you want to be not as high as you can, but near the middle of the boat. And for safety, when in doubt, let it out. If you're the skipper and you're holding the main sheet and you start to tip towards the leeward side and you're feeling unsure, safety-wise, just let go of the main sheet, or just let it slip through your hands, and the boat will immediately flatten out. And you always got to remember that, because you don't want to tip. So for this next activity, we'll be using a hairdryer and a magazine, which is a makeshift jib. So I have caped two ticklers onto each side of this jib. And what we're going to do is I'm going to fix the hairdryer in one place, and you are going to move the jib in order so both ticklers are flying. And the goal of this activity is so you get a sense of where the ticklers will both be flying and what to do when one of them stops flying. So you hold this, okay, and hold a little bit of curvature to it, since your jib will never be completely flat. Can you hold a little closer? Okay, so I will turn this on, and you will find a sweet spot where both of them are flying, and that is your close haul. And once you get the hang of it, moving it up and down, heading up into the wind and down into the wind, I'll start moving this, and you'll have to adjust accordingly.
So does that mimic the wind?
Yes. So I'll turn this on. Okay. So this one is flapping. Your windward one is flapping. So what does that mean? Head it up. Perfect. Okay. There you go. So both of them are flying perfectly right now, and that is your close call. Now this, because it's not a sailboat, you're heading super high into the wind, which would not happen. But this is just meant to replicate it. Okay. So what happens if I go like this? How are you going to adjust accordingly? Perfectly. Both of them are flying. Awesome. And if I head over here, that one's still flapping, but this one isn't. You head down. Perfect. Okay. So, if you're heading like this, and this one's not flapping, what do?
Head up.
Until it's like that. Okay? And you know you're on a perfect close haul because both of them are flying so perfectly. which means you're ripping upwind, okay? And what happens if you are like this? What point of sail are you on right now? Exactly. Yeah, you have to tack. Okay? There. Okay, that one's not flying. There, perfect. Now they're both flying. So now you're on a starboard tack. And, okay, I'm going to start moving this now, and you're going to have to adjust that accordingly. Okay? Alright, is that one flying? Perfect.
Can I tap?
You can if you want to, yeah. Okay, perfect. Awesome. Okay, so I hope that helped with the tickler movement. Go. Okay, so now we're going to be doing an activity to simulate sailing upwind from a leeward mark to a windward mark from point A to point B. Okay, so you have just stolen a sail off of a boat, okay? And the police are trying to catch you, okay? And all of those stuff in the road are police, okay? And they're trying to root you out because you stole someone's sail, okay? So you're gonna start at the bottom and you are gonna have to sail through all of the police to get to the finish line, in which you will be free and you can go take the sails and you can go sail forever, okay? So this is your jib and you're gonna walk throughout the course and you are going to walk in one direction. You will never be able to sail into irons, and it's about 90-degree angle, roughly, in which you cannot sail. And so if you are sailing towards a police, you will either have to say, I'm tacking, and switch to another, a close haul or a close reach on the other tack, or you can say, I'm heading down, and you will go around the police. And you have to say every time, I'm on a close haul, my sails are all the way in, and you'll proceed. And whenever you change direction, you'll have to say, I'm on a close reach now, I'm letting my sails slightly out. And then periodically, I will be saying, oh, big gust coming, and you have to tell your crew, hop onto my side, or crew, stay where you are, I'm just going to hike out, okay? So it's some medium wind today. So you'll probably be starting with a crew on your side and yourself.
So how many crew do I have?
You have one crew, okay? So we'll be starting. So go to the bottom, and that's your jib. Okay, so you just stole the sail, okay? And you have to get to this soccer ball, okay? And
do I have to go around it or to it?
you have to touch it, okay?
Do
So,
I have to end up in irons?
no, you just have to touch it. Okay, go.
Okay, I'm on a close haul with my sails all the way in.
Okay, now you have to tack
Okay,
or head down.
I'm gonna tack, and now I'm on another close haul with all my sails in.
Awesome. Okay, there's a big lull coming. So how are you gonna adjust accordingly?
I'm gonna let the crew who's on my side go to the leeward side, so we don't tip.
Awesome. Okay. Now that you've done that, you can keep going.
I'm still on a close haul with my sails all the way.
Watch out for the police.
And now there's a police, so I'm going to tack again with my sails all the way in.
Awesome.
There's another police, so now I'm going to head down a bit and let out my sails. So now I'm on a close haul.
Can you speak a little louder, please?
I mean, I'm on a close reach.
Awesome.
So I'm headed down. So now we're going this way. And then there's land.
Oh no, there's a big gust coming.
I'm going to have my crew come up to my side, and I'm going to be aware, and
Are you going to be ready to hike out?
Yeah, and
Awesome.
I'm going to be ready to let out my sail so I don't tip.
Awesome.
Now I'm coming towards land, so I'm going to tack again into a close haul with my sails all the way in, and then we're going to sail up.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Super big gust coming. How are you going to adjust?
I'm going to make sure I'm hiking out and have my crew hike out too, and I'm going to be ready to let out my sail so we don't tip.
So you still have to get here. The cops are still after you.
I'm on a close haul, and now I'm going to tack again, and then we're going to go up with my sails all the way in. Woo!
Okay, so I think that was a very productive lesson. You did very well in both of the activities, and I hope you learned a lot, but I'd just like to hear, do you think that you are able to know what the ticklers do, and you would be able to sail on a closed hull for, say, 50 meters?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That was the goal of the lesson regarding the ticklers. And when it comes to body position, we talked a little bit about that, and specifically with activity number 2, when we were outside. Do you think that if you were a skipper, you could tell your crew where to properly sit in the boat?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And do you think if you were a crew, you think you could take initiative and sit on the proper side of the boat?
Yeah.
Awesome. And lastly, do you think that, again, with activity 2, you did very well outside. Do you think that you would be able to know the proper sail trim for both the close reach and the close hull when you're adjusting between them?
Yeah.
Awesome. High five. Excellent job.